Can I share with you kind of an embarrassing story? So a few weeks ago, I got called into work in the late evening. I was ready for bed. I had my PJs on, and I get this phone call. Can you meet me at the store? Sure, I'd love to. So I get to the store, and we're moving around, and we're doing a bunch of stuff. And I've just got my PJs on. Not really the best clothes to be moving around in. I didn't really think I was going to be there that long, so I didn't bother to change. So I get there, and man, I was there for probably an hour. And about every 10 seconds or so, had to pull my shorts up. They didn't really fit. The drawstring didn't really work. And so I'm always like hiking my shorts up. They just didn't really work. Back in ancient times, I would kind of be thought of as girding. Taking the loose clothing that you have around and lifting it up so that you could run or move more freely. Gird yourself. And I probably did that for about an hour, and it was embarrassing. This idea of girding oneself and being ready for movement is the idea that Peter is going to bring to our mind as we continue on in the book of 1 Peter in our 5-minute messages. We're going to be thinking about this next section. Starting in verse 13, God wants you to behave appropriately. And as we think about behavior, Peter's going to use this imagery of girding yourself. And so we're going to be thinking about, as we get into verses 13 through 16, our conformity. How can we know that we are behaving appropriately? By our conformity. Are you conforming to who God is and what he wants you to do? Because as we go through tough times, and again, this is what 1 Peter is all about, is what do you do? How do you handle yourself? How do you conduct yourself? What do you think about when life gets hard and you going through tough times? It's not always sunshine and rainbows. How do you handle yourself? How do you conduct yourself in this world? So God wants you to behave appropriately as you go through these hard times. And how can we know if we are behaving appropriately? Well, this first section, by your conformity, goes a little something like this, starting in verse 13 of chapter 1. Therefore, gird up the loins of your mind. Be sober, and rest your hope fully upon the grace that is to be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. As obedient children, not conforming yourselves as to the former lusts, as in your ignorance, but as he who called you is holy, you also be holy in all your conduct, because as it is written, be holy, for I am holy. We need to have conformity in our behavior, not living our lives as we did before we knew Christ, when we would satisfy the lusts of our flesh, and we would conduct ourselves as ones that didn't know God or what God wanted from us. Rather, we need to be conducting ourselves to the conformity that is God. Holiness, separation from sin, conformity to what is good, wholesome, righteous, and noble. As Paul would tell us in Philippians chapter 4, meditate on those things. And he says, gird up the loins of your mind. Your mind has all this nonsense in it. We've talked about noise before. There's all kinds of nonsense going on all around you, and you need to gird up the loins of your mind. Get the nonsense out of the way, gird up the loins of your mind, and be ready for whatever's going to happen. You need to be nimble, and you need to be quick, because life goes fast. Be sober, be alert, be ready, rest your hope fully upon the grace that is to be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. He's coming back, guys. We need to be obedient children and not conforming ourselves to our former lusts, as in our ignorance. But as he who called you is holy, be holy in all your conduct. And what does holiness mean? It means to be separated from sin. Don't allow yourself to be caught up in sin. Don't allow yourself to be conformed to sin and what sin wants you to do. Don't be conforming to Satan and his precepts. Rather, we need to be conforming to holiness, because as God is holy, he also wants us to be holy. We need to be behaving appropriately as we go through this life. And we need to be conforming to the image of who Jesus is and what he wants from us. How can we know if we're behaving appropriately? Are you conforming yourself to the holiness that's found within the Father? Have a great day.